Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome. This is Lady Long, and you are joining live on Teacher Tidbits with our Tidbit Talks live on our Monday night evening sessions. And I wanted to welcome you all. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to come in. Of course, we got to do a poof check. And as you guys are coming in, I'm going to continue to welcome you and encourage you to please go ahead, like this, give me some hearts, send the hearts coming, and I want you to tag and share this with as many of your friends as you like. We're going to be getting into teaching diversity. Tonight I wanted to talk about diversity, and it's no better time than now to talk about how to have these discussions. And of course, I'm coming from the area of expertise with the littles. I have a ton of experience of about 15 plus years in early education. And I wanted to go ahead and talk to you about how you can encourage diversity in your learning environments, in your homes, in your home schools, in a very tasteful way. So as you guys are coming in, I want to remind you that every Monday evening we have our Tidbit Talks live here with yours truly, and we talk about a various array of topics that have to deal with young learners, because that is my area of expertise. For those of you who are joining for the first time, welcome. And a little bit about myself. I was a preschool teacher for some time, and once I was able to have my own family, I became a homeschooler before COVID-19. And Teacher Tidbits was a way for me to share my knowledge and kind of help other parents who were looking for ways to bridge the gap, to bring some fun educational things at home. And thus Teacher Tidbits was born. And now it's become so much more as a way to kind of engage the everyday parent who is forced to be a homeschooler into the homeschool community, to kind of ease your way in and make it easier. I share tons and tons of very cost-effective, easy to do kid activities that you can do hands-on at home. And so tonight I wanted to talk about how we can go into diversity in a very tasteful way, okay? And so tonight, let's get into it. I'm going to be sharing with you 6 different ways, avenues you can take to tastefully discuss diversity with your young learners. Now, I have 2 kids of my own. As you guys are coming in, welcome. And they are very young. They are 2 and 3 years old. I have 2 little girls, La, my 3-year-old, and Lay, my 2-year-old. And I believe in introducing children to things early on, but you have to also know your child and know their, maturity level. You really want to introduce them to things that they can handle, but I do believe that preschoolers, you'd be surprised at the array or just the different types of things that they can handle. And I believe that diversity is one of them, because they are living in a very diverse world, and they're going to be coming into contact with people of all different cultures, nationalities, and we want them to be aware of things and to be able to grab a hold of things as early on as possible, so that way it can make all of our futures brighter. And so going into tonight's topic, the reason why I labeled this teaching diversity and not just discussing diversity, because a lot of times when we have discussions with our children is usually when topics come about, and then we have to discuss and work our way through those different areas of topics. But the reason why I said teaching is because teaching is very purposeful and intentional. And so when a child goes to school, when they're learning, the teacher doesn't wait for the child necessarily to say, okay, I'm ready, teacher, for arithmetic. Let's do arithmetic right now. No, they come in and the teacher has a purpose, the teacher has a plan, the teacher has a guideline, and they inform the child of what they're going to be learning about, what the topic of discussion is. Now, of course, I do believe in child-led discussion. I'm not against that. You know, your child may come home and have an interest in what's going on. They may notice people of other races or different religions or, you know, different cultures, and they may come to you and maybe you haven't had the chance to have that discussion. That's totally different. And that's totally fine to go into a child-led discussion on various topics. I believe in child-led play and all those type of things. But I think with a topic like diversity, especially in the climate that we're in now, it needs to be very purposeful. It needs to be very thought out and intentional. So that way it can be introduced in a fun, comfortable way, you know? Okay, if that's making sense to you guys, please give me some thumbs up or some hearts. Let me know that you're there and that you're following along. And I want to encourage you, if you have any questions as the discussion is picking up, or as I'm giving you guys some tidbits for tonight, please go ahead and feel free to share them on the screen, and I will answer your questions or any type of statements we'll go through together. So that's the reason why. Now, when we're talking about diversity, you have to be okay and comfortable. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You have to be okay with coming out of your little bubble and exploring something new. You know, most of the time, it's not the children who have issues with change. It is typically the adults. And so when you're talking about diversity, you have to be yourself a person who's open to diversity, you know, before you can really kind of teach it to your children. But the good thing is you guys can learn together. So here's my avenue number one. A great way to tastefully talk about diversity with children is through books. Now, many of my viewers, especially on Instagram and Facebook, a lot of you guys are all over the world. We're Teacher Tidbits is a community scattered all over the globe. And some of you are in neighborhoods that are very monotone. You know, everyone's kind of the same. You might not be exposed to lots of different cultures and lots of different diversities of races and things like that. And that's totally fine. A great way to introduce diversity is through books. Make it a purpose of yours to buy books that have protagonists or main characters of different ethnic groups, different cultures, different nationalities, different races, as well as different religions. There's a ton of different books out now. I think maybe tomorrow or throughout the week, I can share with you guys some of my favorite books that I've been seeing on diversity. And it doesn't have to be a book specifically about the topic of diversity. It can just be a book with main characters that are diverse, you know, if that makes sense. So it doesn't have to be, hey, this is a book about diversity, but a child being exposed to characters that don't look like them is a great way to have diversity. It's through exposure. Diversity comes with exposure. Now, fortunately for me, and I know a lot of you don't have my background. I grew up in a very diverse metropolitan city. I grew up in the city of cities, New York City. Yes, I'm a New Yorker, and all New Yorkers think that New York is just the best place in the world, right? And so growing up in New York City, I took for granted that I was just around everything, everyone. I mean, coming out my front door, just boom, hit, smack, dead in the face with culture. And in the city, there's a diversity of different, parades and just people expressing themselves differently. Not just cultures, but ethnic groups, religions, all just one huge melting pot. But if you are in an area where you just don't have that much exposure, you have to be intentional. So go out, get some books. It doesn't have to be specifically about diversity or specifically about race or, whatever, but it can just show your child a different way of living, or just show your child characters that are different from them. Second avenue is to incorporate diversity in your toys, okay? I have 2 little girls, so I have a ton of dolls. Now, of course, I have black dolls in my house, because representation is important too. Girls and little boys too, they like to see characters that look like them, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can also mix it up. Buy dolls of different races. Buy different dolls of different ethnic groups. Now they have them where they have different cultures. So not only can you buy a doll who may be of Japanese heritage, but they might have the actual, I want to say, the heritage, the actual dress of, the Japanese culture. Things like that. Pick up different things, and that will expose them, one, but it'll also be a great way to start these conversations, because children are naturally curious. So they may want to ask, they may notice a difference in their doll or their toys or whatever, from them. And then you can go into those healthy conversations about differences and about diversity. And when you are having these conversations, you want to be mindful to plant the right seeds. So when you're introducing diversity, you want to make it comfortable. You don't want to make it uncomfortable. You don't want to make it like a taboo. To my white sisters that are watching, you don't want to make it a taboo. It's okay if you say I'm black, because I'm black. It's okay if you don't say African American or, whatever. It's okay as long as it's not in a derogatory way. So make it comfortable. I'll give you guys an example. My children, unfortunately, have noticed very early on that they are brown. And I say unfortunately because I know a lot of you, are hopeful to think that your children don't see color, but mines do. I want them to see color, but I want them to see it in a positive way. And so my girls know that they're brown, and they know that brown is beautiful. But with that, they also start to notice people who are not brown. And when they notice people who are not brown, I tell you, I can't remember. We were watching TV. It might have been a commercial or something. And my 3-year-old, noticed this beautiful little girl. She was a ginger, pale skin, natural ginger, freckles. And she said, Mommy, she has red hair, and, she's very light. They don't know white and black just yet. They just know actual skin tones, brown, pale, And I said, yes, she is. Isn't she beautiful? I love her red hair. I love her freckles. Isn't she beautiful? And she said, yes, she is pretty. She is. She's beautiful. And then I go on to say, she's beautiful and so are you. And then you're both very pretty, even though you look different, even though your hair is not red and her hair is not brown and curly like yours, but you're still very beautiful. You're both little girls. And then we go into other conversations like, I wonder how old she is. She might be your age. Maybe you guys like the same type of things. You make it comfortable. You don't make it awkward. And you don't introduce diversity as a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's an okay thing. Well, so when you're talking about it. And that's why I say, number 2, toys is a great way to do it, because they're playing with, they're picking it up. And as they get older, in the beginning they may not notice, but as they do notice it and they bring up different things and they notice the physical differences in people's appearance, don't shun them. Don't shun away from it. Have the conversation and say, yes, I'm glad you noticed it. And she's a person just like you. She's a little girl or he's a little boy or whatever. And yeah, and it's okay. Third way to introduce diversity in a very tactful, tasteful way is through language. Start introducing your children to different languages. Now, I want to say this. aside from diversity, introducing your child to a language is just, it's just good anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Excuse me. It is ideal to introduce them to multiple languages. But this is a great way to introduce them to diversity, is because with language comes so many different things. So a great way to introduce your young learners to language is through television, YouTube, their cartoons, things that they're already watching. Now, here's the great thing. One of the biggest cartoons, YouTube sensations is Baby Shark, okay? Everyone who is alive, even if you don't have children, you know what Baby Shark is. It is not a fad, people. It is not going away, okay? My 3-year-old loved Baby Shark. I thought it would be gone. Now my 2-year-old is literally hooked to it, okay? So the reason I bring up Baby Shark is because Baby Shark was created, well, the Pink Fong version of Baby Shark was created by Korean artists. And Pink Fong has this whole different, they're very diverse. And what I love about them is they incorporate Korean culture, Thailand, lots of different cultures from the Asian, perspective. And not only that, they offer the videos that the children already love in those different languages. So you can introduce them to something that they already know and familiar with, but they're introduced to language. And that will go into understanding where those languages come from, where those cultures, different things like that. So that's a great way to introduce them to language through television, through cartoon. And that's what I love about YouTube. A lot of the YouTube channels are already, a lot of the popular YouTube cartoons offer those cartoons in other languages. And so it's something that's familiar, and then the kid can watch it and be exposed to the different language, the different culture, but also hopefully they'll pick up a language along the way. They'll pick up the language. So right now, my main language focus study is Spanish. So I want to give you guys a few YouTube channels that I love that really introduce my girls and kids to different languages. One of them is, I already said, Pink Fong. Another one is Coco Melon, one word, COCOMELON, Coco Melon. They offer their cartoon in English, but it's also available, I think, in Portuguese, Dutch, just tons of different languages. Another great one, Choo Choo TV, created by an Indian artist, graphic artist. He was actually a dad who was just looking to create a cartoon for his daughter to have some representation there, and it just blew up. I love Choo Choo TV. It's very educational, but they also offer a story. It's just a ton of things. Choo Choo TV is CHU TV. I am not sponsored by any of these guys. Hey, if they're watching, tag them. Maybe they can make me a partner, but I'm just sharing as a mom the things that I actually let my children watch and things that I actually enjoy. Another great one, Akili, 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 Akili and me, and I love Akili. She is actually created by an African artist. I believe they're from Uganda. I think that's the main country. But it's very educational, but they also, introduce you to Swahili and different African dialects, and they count for you, and it exposes them to children who are black and brown. And I love Akili because she also has animal characters and stuff like that. That's a really, really, really good one. To start introducing children to languages of the African dialect and from, different places in Africa that are outside. There's not a lot of YouTube cartoons that introduce children to Swahili, but I really like Akili. She's so much fun. She's a little girl, the main character. And so that's a great way to do it. It's do it through TV, cartoons, something that they're already going to like. So that's number 3. Number 4, language leads me into my 4th way of introducing your child to diversity is through culture studies. When I was a preschool teacher teaching in a traditional classroom, my school did culture studies. And so towards the end of the year, each classroom, and there was about, there was about 24, 26 classrooms, we would choose a country or an island. Just choose a nation and we would study it. And so we would spend about 2 weeks just learning about that country. We would learn about the language. We would learn about the culture, the customs, and we would learn about the traditional dress. We would learn about the types of food they would eat. And so in a culture study, you really dive deep and you really engulf yourself in the culture. We would learn about the type of music, the instruments that they would use in a traditional way. And so at the end of the 2-week culture study, we would have a big cultural festival where we would reach out, the teachers, we would reach out to people that might be in the area, local people. Maybe you're studying Mexico and you want to reach out to a Huaracha band, something like that. We would bring in people that would represent the culture. And it was amazing. And so the parents would come out and we would have this huge festival. It was amazing, you guys. And all the culture would be represented. And you had some classrooms that brought in dancers, that brought in bands, that brought in people that would teach traditional dance. People that was maybe making things from that culture to sell. It was just incredible. And so that's what I mean when I say a culture study is to really dive in deep. We're coming up on our summer vacation, so the kids may not, I'm not really sure because my kids are homeschooled. Guys, let me know if the kids are getting work for this summer. I don't know if they are, but if they are, to go along with their packets or their summer work, you guys can pick a culture study. You literally get a mat. This will be fun for the whole family. Get a mat and literally have the child choose a place on the map, or if you have a globe or anywhere. If you don't have a physical map, pull one up on your tablet or on your phone. Pick a country and go into a culture study. So what that means is you really dive deep. Learn about the country. Learn about the history. Learn about the language. Learn about the heritage, the customs, the food. The food. Learn about that. And then as you're learning about the language, you can study the language. Another great thing I want to say, if you're going into a culture study and you actually want to learn a language, not to just introduce the child to a language, but you actually want to learn the language, here's a great YouTube channel, you guys. My husband and I we love this channel. It's called Rock, R-O-C-K, the letter N, Learn. Rock and Learn, L-E-A-R-N. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of these guys, but as a mom, I love this channel. And Rock and Learn, they have nursery rhymes, the normal kid stuff, but they have an extensive language program on YouTube, completely free. They have Spanish, Dutch, Japanese, Vietnamese, a ton of languages. And they have it broken down for elementary, preschool learners, early learners, and where they just, break down the words, they break down everything, the colors, letters, numbers, songs. It just is, vocabulary words for around the house, around the classroom. They break it down, and then they also have higher learning. So if your child's in middle school, high school, and even for adults, they have conversational language videos where they show you and teach you how to break down the language, and it's through animation. So I really like Rock and Learn. I like their free videos for language because it's right there. They have it all set up in playlists so you can go to your language, and it's YouTube, so you can always go back and rewatch and relearn. And that's how my husband and I, we are reteaching ourselves and the kids Spanish and French. So check that out. But I strongly suggest that if you're talking about diversity, you don't just want to get stuck in just race. Diversity also includes religions, different religions. I'm a Christian. I'm not, unapologetically a Christian. But I live in a world where people are not Christian. They don't have the beliefs as me. And so I want my children to understand that people are going to have different beliefs from them, but be able to respect people, on just a civil level. And this is what we want to do as parents and as educators, because we are all in this fight together for creating a better place for our children, a place free as we can get from different biases and things like that. And so you want to introduce them. There's so many different things out there that you can introduce them to. But when we're talking into a culture study, it's not just about race. It's about different nationalities. Because within one race, there's different ethnic groups. There's different nationalities. And with those nationalities come different cultures. And that's a great way to dive deep and really get into it. And I would say at the end of your culture study, do this, which is point number 5. Go on a culture visit. I call it a culture visit. It's basically like going on a field trip to experience different cultures, okay? So what I mean by that is choose, if you are in an area, again, if you're in a place, unfortunately, that may be highly segregated, or you're just in a neighborhood that's not exposed to too much diversity, go on a culture visit. Go on a purposeful field trip where you expose yourself and place yourself in different areas of diversity. So what I mean by that is check out your local bazaar. A lot of cities, a lot of towns may have a bazaar, like a small little market that has a specific niche. So there's like African bazaars, there's Caribbean bazaars, there's Chinese bazaars. I know I'm here in Western New York, Buffalo, New York, and all of those that I just named we have. And so they have specific things for that specific culture. Why? Because those people from that specific culture group or set group may be here, and their dishes might require certain things that they don't sell in your typical American markets. Maybe certain spices. Now, I will say this, I am happy that a lot of our supermarkets are including specific, or what was deemed exotic spices from all over the world. And now we're having shipments of fruits, from different countries all over the world that weren't readily available to us. But that's a great visit, a great culture visit, is to go to a bazaar. So go to those places. This is if you've already done the culture study, and you don't have to do a culture study to do this, but go visit a bazaar and expose yourself to different foods that they have at those places, different spices. And a lot of times at the bazaar, they also sell items like custom-made jewelry, handmade artisan things, pottery, all different types of goodies that you can expose yourself and the kiddies to. And that's a great way to expose yourself to diversity. Another great way is if you are in a larger city and you have a diverse neighborhood, visit that neighborhood to get a feel of the custom and the culture. When I say diverse neighborhood, you guys, I'm talking about, I'm from New York City, so I'm talking about the Chinatowns. I'm talking about the small Italies. I'm talking about Little Russia. Those things. If you have an area close by that's diverse, that is maybe centered around a specific culture subgroup, then take a culture visit. Go to that neighborhood. Have lunch in that neighborhood with your children. Expose yourself to the language. Speak to the local people in that neighborhood. Try to get some of the language there. Buy some handcrafted items there and that type of thing. So that can be a culture visit. It's basically a cultural field trip. And you can do those often. You can do them once a week where you're introducing yourself or exposing yourself to different cultures every week. That is a great way to introduce and have fun conversations about diversity. And I actually really like that one. I'm going to be incorporating that once this COVID-19 lifts, whenever that may be. But these are things that I'm actually doing with my children, so I hope this is helping you. And my last but not least way of talking about, or, teaching diversity is to have healthy conversation, okay? Healthy conversation. That's the last way. Again, when you're introducing all of these different cultures, when you're introducing different races, have healthy conversation. Have dialogue. Sit, listen. Listen to the questions that your children are asking you. Some of you watching have older children. They might be aware of what's going on. Let's just be honest. Sesame Street did a town hall on the protest. They talked about racism. So kids are aware of what's happening. We are having protests. I know where I live, they've been having protests every single day. Now, it's not in my immediate area or neighborhood, so my children who are 2 and 3 don't necessarily know about the protests. But I've been introducing them to culture. We've been talking about different things, and it's all in a healthy way. So any questions that they have, I don't dismiss it. Even if it might make me uncomfortable, don't dismiss it. Now, again, I'm very open to different things, so I haven't really been hit with any questions that are uncomfortable. But if you guys have, go ahead and share. If you feel comfortable, share those uncomfortable questions that your children are having. Maybe I can help to walk you through the process. Maybe I can tell you how to go about answering those specific questions that your young ones are having about diversity, about the protests, about racism, about just the state of this country. And as you guys are listing those questions, if you have any, I'm going to go ahead and quickly recap the 6 ways to expose yourself to diversity in a very tasteful and tactful way. Number 1 is through books. You don't have to have books specifically about diversity. Just have books that have main characters that are different backgrounds, that are from different races, different cultures, different religions, and different sexes. Number 2 is through your toys. Same thing. Introduce your children to diversity in their toys. Buy toys that are different backgrounds, religions, races, and cultures. Number 3 is through language. Introduce your child to a new language. It can be, through their cartoons. I gave you guys a few suggestions that you can follow on YouTube. Number 4 is through a culture study. So pick a specific place on the map. Have your child pick a specific country on the map. If you don't have a map, a physical map, use your tablet or your phone. And then go into a deep, maybe a week or 2 week study of that country and find out the history of the country, the language, the country's main religion. Find out their heritage, their customs, their backgrounds of their different, if they are made up of different tribes and things like that. Find out about their food. Find out, every nation has like a national dish. Find out about their food. Maybe you can try to make the food, have a recipe. So go into a culture study where you and the children can learn together. Number 5 is to go on a cultural visit. And this is basically a field trip for culture. Visit your local bazaars. Go to an African bazaar, an Asian bazaar, a Chinese bazaar, or go into a Caribbean bazaar. These are small supermarkets with a specific niche, okay, with a specific cultural group in mind, and introduce yourself to the culture through that way. Or you can go on a cultural visit to a specific cultural town. This is going to be your Chinatown, your small Italy, and things like that. And last but not least is to have healthy and open conversations. Well, you guys, I don't see any questions tonight. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please go ahead and tag your friends and share this video, and make sure that we are all working together to introduce our children to diversity, so that way our young ones can grow up in a world where they can celebrate each other's differences and not be afraid of them. This is Lady Long. I'm glad that I was able to help you. See you on the next Tidbit Talks. Happy learning!